Hey guys, welcome to your special astrological horoscope. Today we'll be talking about Saturn in Capricorn, or more importantly, Saturn entering Capricorn for the years of 2017 till 2020. Do keep in mind that Saturn stays in one sign for roughly 2.5 years. So there are times when if Saturn's like on the cusp, which is like the entrance of the next sign, it'll like go back into a sign even though it's supposed to stay in the next sign. It's a little bit weird, but in this particular case, once once Saturn enters Capricorn, it's not going to retrograde back. It's going to stay in there and it's going to keep moving forward. And it has a number of applications as what this means for us for the coming years. I've been taking kind of a look around of what other astrologists have to say and what my take on is on this natal transit. And so I will give you guys my thoughts on what I believe the most important things are about Saturn entering Capricorn are going to be. Now, in order to show this, as you can already see, my capture is going to be a little bit different because I can't use a normal capture, because here I'm actually going to end up showing you guys the passage of time, and in order to do that I need to be able to have a functioning capture here. So right now we're taking a look at December 20th of 2017. That is when Saturn enters Capricorn, 0 degrees and 0 minutes. Let's talk about the general specification of what this means. When Saturn enters a sign, it's basically considered a cycle of achievements and maturity, especially being in Capricorn, which is the sign of goals, achievements, structure, procedures, literally bureaucracy, right? So there's a big implication when it comes to a rise in achievements, responsibilities, duties, and these things that we want to accomplish, essentially, right? And for us, this is a time when Saturn enters a sign. It's really that moment in which that sign needs to have kind of like a reality check in their lives and realize that there's a lot of things that need to change. It's a time in which one needs to open up to the higher wisdom that is Saturn. We are the eternal students of Saturn, and so we need to realize that there are things that we are doing wrong that need to be addressed. Also, just a quick tidbit, don't worry about this saying Australia. It's just my computer version of this is very wonky in that regard. When you have a Saturn transit in a house, sometimes it can feel very kind of like just heavy and just ugh, and it's like, oh no, the boss is here, I can't slack off, right? I think I was giving you guys that impression last video on Wednesday when it was like, oh shoot, all the co-workers were partying and stuff, and all of a sudden the door opens and the boss shows up and everyone's like, oh shit, son, right? So it's like, it's that really reality check to get your life straight, because at the end of the day, what is it that Saturn is here to always do, right? Saturn is going to slow things down to, what can be considered like a snail's pace. Advancements are going to be very hard to see because you're constantly having to adjust or readjust, or even at times completely scrap an idea and come up with one that is both more efficient, because Cancer is a very efficient sign, as well as just making sure you have your priorities straight. This is a very good time, in any sign really. It's a very good opportunity to gain a lot of inner strength, to become more responsible, to essentially grow up and mature. Definitely Saturn coming into a sign is a maturing point, And Sagittarius felt it for the last 2.5 years, and now it's Capricorn's turns to feel it, especially the sun signs. I mean, the moons and the risings will also feel it to a certain degree, but definitely the sun signs are the ones that are like hard hit on this. I mean, it's no coincidence that as soon as Saturn enters Capricorn here, like if we look at the next day, right, you have Sun joining Saturn. So this is right after Yule, which is on the 21st. So on the 22nd, 3 days before Christmas, we have this conjunct here of the Sun joining Saturn in Capricorn. So it's definitely the Capricorn suns are gonna feel it. You're gonna feel it really intensely, because it's that initial moment of, hey, things were all party hardy and things just became strict overnight, right? From there on out, once you feel that strictness, from there on out, the first 10 decans, which is the first 10 degrees, is going to be a lot about, all right, so what have you been doing wrong for the last several years? And it's just like, you're just going to have to sit there and listen to Saturn yap and yap and yap and yap and yap. And you're like, come on, I don't want to go through my like fucking fuck ups. Like, this is lame. This sucks. I don't want to go through this. It's kind of like basically him going through all of your fuck ups his entire time. So those are the first 10 degrees. The second 10 degrees, the second decan, which is, from 10 to 19, is really about you beginning to really initiate a lot of those changes and really beginning to implement a lot of okay, I realize I messed all of this up, and I've been given a task and list by Saturn to fix things here, here, and here. So let's go ahead and start implementing a lot of these changes. You're going to feel a lot of that implementation happen during the second decan, right? And during the last decan, which is the last 10 degrees between 20 to 29, that's when you're going to really come into the mastery of what you began implementing. So, for example, for me, when Saturn was in Sagittarius, I learned real quick that, I can't slack off and play around anymore. I need to grow up and actually act like a responsible adult sometimes. So, during the first decan, it was just hard press on me of like, you realize you need to stop playing around. You have things that you need to be doing. And I didn't really understand that because like my schedule at school at the time when I was attending university was kind of like, I realized I need to be more mature when I'm hanging around with my students, because that's when I was still a graduate student for becoming a teacher. And it's like, oh yeah, so when I'm in front of the kids and stuff, I need to make sure that I'm a little more mature and all. But at the time I was only working on one-on-one with kids as doing peer teaching and supplement educational materials. So I didn't quite really get that. But I realized that as Saturn continued to progress through my chart, especially beginning the second decan and entering the third decan, that's when I really began student teaching. That's when I was essentially taking over the responsibilities of a elementary teacher, and I was the one that was like writing all the lesson plans. I was the one that was doing all the educating for the kids. I was the one that had to take them to lunch, to recess, to specials, all of that stuff. So during that time, Saturn was in my house, and it was a big transit of like, you need to realize that yes, you can have fun in life, but right now in front of these kids, you need to act like an adult. You are not their friend. They are not your equal. And it was kind of a really harsh reality check of, yeah, I like to have fun with these kids and I like being relatable and stuff, but yeah, there are times when I need to get my put my boots on and make sure that I'm acting like an adult in front of them, so they realize that there is a time for fun and there is a time to be serious about your education. Now, will that play the same in Capricorn? Not necessarily. Capricorn's a little bit special in regards to all the other signs, and we'll get to that in a minute here. But, it's really about kind of like going through different aspects of your life, especially wherever Saturn falls in your chart. For me, Saturn was in my 5th house, which is my house of pleasure. It's the house of fun. It's the house of entertainment. So yeah, when Saturn went through my 5th, I felt it really fucking hard. That's just a thing. Now, as it moves into Capricorn, it's going to also move into another sign. It could be another house. Wherever we talk about shifting of signs and how now the Capricorn suns are going to be feeling it. But, that doesn't mean that if you're, for example, a Sagittarius, that doesn't mean that you're not going to feel it. For example, for me, it left the 5th house and it's going to go into my 6th house. So what does that mean for me exactly? That's probably going to mean that a lot of my, the way that I, present my services to other people, or my usefulness for other people, my dietary, my regimen for taking care of my body, my food intake, my health, essentially, all of that is going to end up going through a period of really understanding what it is that I've done wrong in my life and what it is that I need to correct myself in. So again, I'm still going to be affected by Saturn, and so will everyone else, but it's going to be in a different aspect of my life, a different area of my life. I'm not going to be hit hard with the, big boss as Capricorns will be, but I'm still going to feel it in my own right. So this is why it's so important for you to figure out where exactly Saturn's going to be in your personal natal charts, so that you know how Saturn will affect you. Now, if you are a Capricorn, either sun, moon, or rising, you are still going to feel that a bit harder than most people. And again, Saturn just really teaches us about responsibilities for ourselves, making sure that we're setting the right tone. Sometimes it might feel like we're in a harsh, cold place when we just want to be in a warm, loving environment, a more positive, fun environment. And Capricorn's just that, or not Capricorn, Saturn is just that teacher with the ruler banging against his shoulder, trying to make sure that you stay in line. And it's really, he's being a harsh teacher, but he does it for good intentions, right? We need to realize that there are imbalances in our lives that we need to set straight. There are, and through this, we find our own inner strength. Wherever it was that we were neglecting was essentially a weakness of ours. And as Saturn transits through it, it becomes an area of strength. Because then you can take what was once a vulnerable either sign or house and empower it with what Saturn has taught us. Now, I don't necessarily like to talk about the sometimes a little too harsh side effects of Saturn, because I don't want to ever give a negative image of something, but there are things to realize. And in my personal experience, I had gone through very severe depression, leading close to a fatal situation. Depression can at times be a byproduct of a very heavy Saturn transit. Again, Saturn was going through my 5th house of entertainment when all of that was essentially stripped from me and taken from me as a Sagittarius who literally just likes to have a bunch of fucking fun, and as an Aries moon who is literally a child emotionally speaking. For me, Saturn was an extremely heavy transit. And there, like I said, it was pretty bad for a moment there. Imagine, a elementary child, that little loudmouth clown student, right, who tries to get attention for all his dumb pranks and stuff, and all of a sudden you put him in detention in a frozen room, telling him to write on a piece of paper, "I will not, insert blank here." for 2.5 years. It's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. So like I definitely felt it because the energy was so powerful, so overbearing really, that it put me in a very gloom and doom state of mind. And it's just, I want y'all to realize that if you do go through a lot of negativity, because there are aspects in your life that are being reworked and rewired so that you can become a stronger and more self-disciplined person, I want you to realize that if you're feeling a lot of negativity, many times it's possibly because you're fighting against it. You know how when your parents often will come in and they'll be like, they're setting ground rules, and you're just like, I don't care about your rules, I don't care about all of this stuff, I just want to be independent individual, and I don't want to have to worry about what you have to say to me. And then all of a sudden, what does your parents do? They unhinge the door from your room, and all of a sudden there goes your privacy, you know? Or they may tell you, you got curfews and you need to be home by certain hours, right? It feels depressing as shit to know that your life is almost being stripped from you and taken by higher energies that are trying to instill you good qualities so that you can become a much more grounded person. But in your mind, you're like, man, this fucking sucks, and you're crying in bed and you're whining, and you wish you can text to your friend the problems that you're having, but your cell phone was taken from you as well because you couldn't get your shit straight, and you're just crying and everything, and you're like moping into your pillow, and it's like it all feels all gloom and doom. But, you know, it's that reality check. It's that moment in which you need to realize that there are things that need to be curved. There are things that need to be learned. Things that need to be corrected in your life. So, honestly, the best, you know, advice that I can give for a Saturn transit is essentially, don't fight it. If you can figure out what house that's going to be in your natal chart, please try to find that as soon as possible, because you will exactly know what areas in your life you will be affected on. And if you can find it and you don't know what the house means, you guys can leave a comment in the video below, and I will try to get to all of you in regards to what house Saturn means in. So like, for example, I already told you guys about the 5th house. So Saturn in the 5th house basically means entertainment is one of those things that you need to really be more strict about, right? You know, you can have fun and play games and, you know, indulge yourself in pleasure, but there are times when you need to be more strict about the things that you are trying to do. So you have to cut back on your fun. You have to realize that the world isn't all about fun and games. There are times when you need to be more, put your foot on the ground and get shit done, right? That's Saturn in the 5th. Again, if you guys know where Saturn's going to be transiting through your houses and you don't know what it means, you guys can leave a comment and I will try to get back to you as soon as I can. You know, other things to think about when you have Saturn transits is really about the value of moderation and caution, right? You know, for example, if you have Saturn going through... Where would... because I know like Saturn and Pisces would be really like cutting back addictions and stuff. I'm trying to think where that would apply in the houses. I would say something like either maybe 8th or 12th, right? Both of them, one deals with like the higher self and stuff, and then the other one deals with like the darker shady things of life, like sex and alcohol and stuff. So you know, you might have a bit of having to be more caution about the things that you do and the things that you handle, and do things in a bit more moderation. So it's really like, don't avoid these lessons, don't try to skip out on them, don't try to fight them. The best you can do is really accept them, even if your life feels like it's just crumbling down or it's slowing down to almost a painful grind. Know that there is a reason for why this is really happening, and that it's a time for you to really build a solid foundation for who you are and who you want to end up being. You know, even though this is a physical growth, it's also a spiritual growth, because most of our mentalities, we tend to break things down to physical, mental, spiritual, emotional, but really a lot of those three, mental, spiritual, emotional, are all really just spiritual. We just have a physical self or a spiritual self, and that spiritual is then broken down into subcategories. So it's really a time for spiritual growth within ourselves, and knowing where those lessons are going to take place is really going to help us kind of advance ourselves without jeopardizing our own self-growth. Now with that out of the way, let's go ahead and talk about why the next 2.5 years are going to be a bit crazy, right? As you can see, right, you have Saturn in 0 degrees of Capricorn. Actually, I want to do something real quick, right? So if I turn on the moon, you'll see here that the moon is conjunct Pluto when Saturn decides to enter Capricorn. So as you can see, the moon here is a huge trigger with Pluto in order for Saturn to step in. This is essentially Pluto's been in Capricorn for years now, and Pluto's just like, all right guys, we need to change the structure, we need to change the traditions, we need to change the way that life has been going, the way that people have been going about their day-to-day lives, what type of things they want to achieve, their goals and their dreams and all that stuff. Pluto's been trying to do shit here. Pluto is alone. Like, it's been able to make a lot of changes, hasn't been able to make all the changes. Now, don't get me wrong, there are times when we have our sun in Capricorn, we'll have a bunch of energies all go through that sign at once, but it hasn't been as fruitful as we would want it to see. And as you can kind of see, I took out a lot of the inner planets, so Mars, Venus, Mercury, and all of those are out of here, because I really want to talk about a lot of the outer planets and how this affects everything. So let's go and take the moon out for the moment. Let's go ahead and look at the fact that Pluto has been in Capricorn, wanting to initiate transformation, but hasn't been able to do it because it hasn't had any other universal support to be able to do it at this time. The slow-moving planet of Pluto is now joined in by the other slow planet that is Saturn. We have a, what do we say here, kind of like a collection of really slow, powerful transits that's, you know, are here to really kind of educate us moving forward. As I just said, Saturn is really the strict teacher, right? And Pluto is the one that does not even give a fuck about what you have to say in your own life. If you are messing up, if you are off path, if you are not doing things as they should be, Pluto is just going to come in, slap you left and right, and, you know, oh, that's a nice little cute tower you built. Oh, that took you 12 years? Boom, kicks it over. All right, you realize that's not what you should be doing, right? Come over here and start building this other stuff. That's what you should be doing. Pluto really does not give two fucks. Like, it's not something that you can negotiate with. And so Pluto has been doing this, but no one has been understanding why Pluto is doing this. Like, you know, every time we continue to construct our own tower of whatever they are, whether it be goals, achievements, or anything related to Capricorn, including even government, Pluto has been kicking it over. But, like, no one is understanding why Pluto's doing all this stuff. And so now with Saturn joining in Capricorn, a lot of Pluto's grand designs are going to be educated to the minds of the collective, right? People are now going to be coming into the understanding of what it is that Pluto has been trying to initiate all of this time. And as you can see, we have a number of aspects that are occurring here. But what is the significance of all of this? First of all, we know that Jupiter has been going over all of the dark, greedy desires that have been going on for the last 2.5 years when Saturn was in Scorpio, right? Jupiter's just magnifying it and exposing it. And because it's trining Neptune, it's really been uncovering a lot of those veils and secrets, as well as Neptune really showing Saturn the reality of what has been happening. And Saturn squaring this north node is kind of seeing what really has been taking place, what our governments have been doing with behind our backs without ever really telling us about it, and all of this stuff. And it's like, pretty much almost vomiting and going like, I can't believe all of this stuff has been happening behind our backs and we've never known about it. It's having a hard time moving forward into their life's path because they're just uncovering so many dark, disgusting secrets. And it's sextiling Pluto right here. So it's, working together with Pluto to essentially change a lot of this greed that has been happening this entire time. We also have Uranus in Aries. So Uranus all of this entire time has been like, we need rebellion. We need to overthrow the government, or overthrow our bureaucrats, or overthrow certain practices and traditions and lifestyles and all this stuff that does not compute with all of us, right? In Aries, it has that god of war passion. Aries is the sign of almost anger and aggression in the zodiac. And when Aries gets absolutely pissed off, there's no other sign in the zodiac that can calm down in Aries when it's throwing its tantrum. And so Uranus here is like, we need anarchy. We need to change the system because the system isn't helping us. And Pluto's like, yeah, I've been trying to fucking transform the system this entire time, but I ain't getting no support here. I don't even have an aspect from you, Uranus, right? So like, there's no support here. And then Jupiter over here is like, throwing up because of all of that stuff. So now with Saturn coming in, it's that educational moment, right? And if we take a look at the transits as we move forward here, we'll see that things begin to get really interesting. Now Jupiter is no longer squaring North Node. This is by February, right? In 2018. Jupiter's no longer squaring North Node, and it's actually beginning to really come into that sextile with Pluto. Things are beginning to truly become uncovered. And even more so, it's no longer working with Neptune, but working with Chiron, as it begins to see the damages that have been caused because of all of this. Uranus has also begun to move direct as well. Let me see when that occurred. That will be sometime in January. So being able to move forward with the anarchy feeling is definitely something that we're going to be seeing, especially come February, where I predicted that we're probably going to be seeing a lot of lawsuit type of things against like the FCC and other organizations, or even against our own senators and stuff that have been abusing their power in I don't necessarily want to say Congress, but just in the governmental system, because again, we're trying to change the government, and people are becoming aware of what it is that's happening because they're being educated on what has been happening this entire time in regards to all of this. So let's keep moving the months forward, right? Let's keep moving them forward. We have North Node now in conjunct with Saturn as it begins to retrograde. There's a couple retrogrades going on here, but now it's like coming into the awareness of like, oh shit, there are things that we need to really come into like this understanding of moving forward. And it gets a bit more wild as the time begins to progress forward. Saturn, or not Saturn, excuse me, that was Jupiter. Jupiter was retrograding for a little bit here. Remember, it had gone up to 22 degrees. Now it's coming back down. Jupiter will then begin to go direct and move forward once more. Now we're at September 20. Let's see here. We got a lot of crazy aspects happening. And these are just the slow planets. These are just the slow planets. Look at this. So by when did that occur? When did that occur? So April 20th, Uranus was still in Aries. May 20th, Uranus enters Taurus. Now, this is really significant because we have been predicting that Uranus in Taurus is going to cause a major change in our stability, possibly in our economy, and there's a fairly big chance that while Uranus is in Taurus, there may be an economic collapse. Whether it be immediately or not entirely certain, but we do know that Uranus being in Taurus, which Taurus rules the second house, which is all about money, finances, stock market, there's going to be a change, a rejection, a rebel against the status quo in regards to monetary. And I mean, we've already been seeing the rise of this with Bitcoin in the last 4 years that I've been following it, and wish I had invested in it, but that I've been following it. So there's definitely going to be a big change that is going to be occurring with Uranus as it enters Taurus. Now, again, we saw that Saturn began to retrograde in, still 2018 within Capricorn, but it doesn't leave Capricorn. It goes back direct and it stays in Capricorn. Like I said, we're not going back to Sag. Saturn and Sag is over. Once it's the 19th, moving into the 20th, that's it. We're not going to be seeing Saturn in Capricorn anymore, or in Sagittarius, I mean to say. Now, by December of next year, so a year from now, Jupiter will be in Sagittarius. Things are beginning to align very freaking interesting here. Uranus went back into Aries, which is why I don't believe the economic crisis will not occur yet, because it returned back to Aries. It doesn't go back into Taurus until March of 2019. March of 2019. Look at this though. Look how the South Node is now in Capricorn. I want you to think about that for a second. Chiron is now in Aries. Uranus is in Taurus. This North Node is in Cancer. South Node is in Capricorn. Look at these tight orbs right here. You want to see something even crazier? Check this out. If I were to turn on a couple of these. Earth sign, more water, and she's an Aquarius, interestingly enough. Let me see. Let me move a couple of the points here real quick. Begin to see a very huge shift here with the Sun, South Node, and Mercury on Pluto. Like within 10 degrees, we have all of this. We have Saturn in Capricorn and Jupiter in Sagittarius. Now, a lot of people might be like, wait a minute, Niwa, what's going on? Why do shouldn't, Jupiter be in Capricorn for the big stuff to happen? I don't understand. Well, we need to think about things in a different way, right? 1985 to 1995 are known as the Scorpio-Pluto generation. These are the generation of kids who can basically see through the bullshit and lies and deceit that the government has been spewing, which makes sense as to why our generation has been so adamantly against the government, our presidents. We have the lowest voting rates in, history, except for when Obama came in, and that was a big historic thing. But that's also because that was a very historic president as well. The whole thing was very unusual, which can still be explained by astrology, actually. But, it was a very different situation. However, Jupiter is now in Sagittarius. The Pluto Sagittarius generations are the ones that are going to understand the bullshit that the Pluto and Scorpio generation saw and understood and communicated to the Pluto and Sagittarius generation. And it's going to be when Jupiter is in Sagittarius that these kids, who are now much older, are going to begin taking actions. I believe that this is when the action is going to begin, when these aspects align. Now, we're not done, because if, we were to say, oh, well, that's all I had to show you, that'd be one thing. But no, this actually gets more beautiful, because as we move into, let me see, let's move the chart a little bit quicker. Here we go. Here we go. That's what I wanted to see. Look at this. South Node, Jupiter, Pluto, Saturn, and our Sun. January 2020. Is that not synchronicity or not? Some of the most powerful signs are going to be in Capricorn all at the same time, while the South Node is going to be trining the sign of change. The things that need to be let go in life need to change, and they're going to be squaring a lot of these very powerful aspects at the end of Capricorn, which are indicative of the pains that we have suffered, of the wounds that we still carry. This is a powerful transit right here. This is what people have been looking at, and they're like, oh God, the United States is going to change. Oh God, the nation's going to break down. Oh God, the country we know today is no longer going to exist. That may be a little bit of fear mongering, but if I didn't say that held at least a little bit of truth, I'd be lying. What exactly is going to happen? I don't particularly know. I don't know what a Saturn on top of Pluto on the same degree while having Jupiter and South Node all in the same sign means. A stellium like this, I don't think has occurred in what I've been able to find through this program, dating back. Like, I have not seen a stellium of this kind yet, while trining Uranus. So this is very big. And what does this mean, right? Because like the South Node's going to be in Aquarius, or excuse me, the South Node's going to be in Capricorn. So it's about letting go of structure, letting go of traditions, letting go of these very self-important goals and ambitions that we always have for ourselves. And instead, the North Node is going to be in Cancer. This is going to be more about reaching out to your fellow countrymen, reaching out to your fellow men and women, brothers and sisters, being more, I wouldn't want to say like emotional with them, but bringing in more of those positive emotion, literally having your intuition on fucking point, listening to what's going on in your mind, making sure that you're not taking decisions that are going to be screwing you over. And as we've always said, Cancer is the ruler, is the house whose ruler is the moon, right? This is all about emotions, intuition. It's also a big time for healing, and it's no coincidence that it's going to be squaring Chiron. It's going to be attempting to heal a lot of those wounds that, we've been suffering for God knows how long. I believe that there is going to be a very big economic disaster coming soon. I mean, you already seen it on the news, right? Right now, what are we going through? We're going through a repetition of the 1920s. Fucking hilarious that this is 2020, right? So we're going through the 20s again, of the roaring 20s when the economy was booming. Trump wants to take a lot of credit for it, but let's be honest, Obama brought it back from a depression, even though many people may not want to admit that. Trump is trying to continue that which he already brought back, because the Bush and Clinton era fucked it up with the whole housing bubble and stuff, right? So there's this there's this change, there's this need for change in the economic world. There's so much instability and injustice with the way that our society is right now. You know, we talk about third world countries like Iran and Iraq and Lebanon and all this stuff, but let's be honest, the United States is a very third world country right now. People either have money or not. Most of the money is being concentrated at the 1%. Where 75% of the country is either making poverty amount of income or less. What do they generally say? Something like $35,000 per year or less, which even $35,000 isn't that much. The poverty line is somewhere around $21,000. So it's this whole, why are the masses struggling to be able to choose between utilities, rent, or food, while a small collective of people have 90% of the world's income, while we're fucking over countries like Africa to steal from their precious minerals and resources that allow us to build our technological advances instead of actually purchasing them like a good nation should. Why are we using labor workers of China to be able to mass produce the things that we consume here in the United States instead of having our own citizens create our own goods? There's a huge sense of inequality in this world, and Uranus is definitely going to shake up that stability, those values, and what the meaning of worth is in regards to basically everything. That's why the economy needs to crash, so that people can actually take a look at of what's important in their lives, what they actually value, as opposed to what they would want, which is the opposite house. Scorpio, your desires, that whole of, you know, going through whoever you have to be able to get whatever you want. No, we're going to the other side. We're going to Taurus. We're going to what it is that we truly find valuable in their life. Do you want that Ferrari, or do you just want a nice loving family that makes you feel at home when you come back from work? There's a need for a lot of change, and Neptune remaining in Pisces is really trying to grant that humanity's wish, that which we've been wanting to finally achieve, but we haven't been able to because of this whole Capricornian energy has been dominating everything. And so once we have this conglomerate of energy in Capricorn, that's when Pluto can finally, you know, enter. It's in the third decan now, right? Now it's finally beginning to push forward a lot of those transformations that it hasn't been able to do all of this time. So this is what this Saturn transit is going to be bringing. These next 2.5 years are going to be some of the wildest years you've ever lived in your entire life. They're going to be absolutely insane. And it doesn't even end, because eventually Saturn's going to end up going into Aquarius, right? And what is Saturn in Aquarius? What is Aquarius all about? It's about friends. It's about communities. It's about organizations. It's about associations. It's about the greater public. It's about, you know, connecting with others. You know, that's what the internet is. It's an Aquarian piece of technology. And eventually, you know, even if it retrogrades back into Capricorn, as we see here, what's going to end up happening is that notice how both Saturn and Jupiter enter Aquarius at the same time. At the same time. Around December of that year. So after we go through our catastrophic events of transformation and stuff, then people begin to unite together and try to figure out how to move forward with life. It's going to be wild. Radical, wild, unprecedented. Whether we take this energy and do something positive with it, or we let those in power run things however they want, is up to the collective people. Who are you following? Who are you placing your beliefs in? Who are you taking your information from? Because if you are being lied to, if you are being, basically herded like a sheep, if you're part of the sheeple masses, then things could be absolutely horrible for all of us. But if you woke, if you realize what's going on, if you see the shady deals, if you get out of the polarizing left versus right, if you get out of the polarizing dynamics of Israel versus Palestine, if you get out of the polarizing ideas of rich versus poor and classism, racism, all of this bullshit that is here to just distract us, then you can open your eyes to what many people would even probably call theories and conspiracies, which we say that often. Oh, you're just whack. You're just talking up a big story, and it's just a conspiracy theorist. Like you're some Alex Jones or something, right? There is universal support to show that changes are coming, and those that are not prepared for it are gonna get hit the hardest. They're going to lose things. The stock market is going to flip. People are going to lose money overnight. Lives are going to be ruined. It's not going to be a big dramatic change like there's an earthquake and everything's over. It's going to be a continual thing that occurs. It's going to be a build-up. And as we move forward, I mean, I can already tell you some of the events that have been happening in the last 3 months that can already lead to this. There's already signs. Look at what's happening with the tax scam. Look what's happening with the FCC. Look at the devastation caused in the Caribbean islands and the earthquake that occurred in Mexico. Look at the way the Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies are rising. Look how banks are now beginning to accept a cryptocurrency, and soon enough you're going to see a leave from governmental run currencies. Like the dollar is not being backed up by anything right now. They'll tell you, oh no, the dollar is valued by how much gold it's worth. What gold? The United States sold that shit fucking forever ago. You know what currency is? It's going to having access to your bank account and being able to punch in a bunch of numbers. Have you seen those memes on Twitter where they're like, they'll go into their elements and they'll rewrite the display of hey, look guys, I have $1 million in my bank account. If you retweet this message, then whenever X happens, we'll give out $100 to everyone. That's literally what banks are. If you worked at a bank, you know exactly what it is, how you put money into someone's account or take it out. It's as easy as putting numbers in and taking them out. Where is the value of dollar there? There is no value. It's literally interchangeable numbers or exchange of numbers. That doesn't hold any value at all. There's no stability there at all. That's going to be coming down. Cryptocurrencies are currencies that are designed to not be easily manipulatable, so that the only way to acquire them is through either exchanges or mining. These hold a lot more foundational footings than a outdated currency system that went digital, because the human evolution was going digital. But upon doing that, all they did was manipulate the system. How do you think we pay for so many wars every year? How do you think we give out free money to around the world? Do you think America actually has that much money? No, they'll tell you about we have a 19 trillion, or 17 trillion deficit. Yeah, I bet you do, but you're still printing out a shit ton of money that you don't even have a way for affording. Who's holding America accountable for their debt? How is it that America can continue to print money even though they have debt? Is that a question you've ever asked? How can we continue to print money when we have no money? Hello? That doesn't make any fucking sense. So, Things are coming. Changes are inevitable. And the best that I can tell you is, it's time to live a healthier life. It's time to live a more minimalistic life. I'm not going to tell you sell all of your junk and only keep the essentials with you. Because, let's be honest here. I'm still interested in a lot of my entertainment and stuff. But, cutting down on things you don't need is a very good way to prepare. There's a lot of ways, but this isn't a video in helping you prepare, really. This is just helping you realize that changes are coming. For me, I'm going more a vegetarian route, so I'm cutting out meat from my intake, not only because Saturn's in my 6th house alongside Pluto, so it's like, oh hey, by the way, you need to change your dietary and the way that you take care of yourself. Like, ow, thanks. So I'm being naturally pushed into that, but not everyone has that in their 6th house. But for me, I think that's already a good idea, because what's going to end up happening is that the system that we're using right now isn't going to be able to hold up forever. And, that Great Depression, because what came after the Roaring 20s? The Great Depression. The Great Depression is coming. It's coming in one way or another. We're going to see a lot of Capricornian ideas and structures and organizations and stuff relating to Capricorn just completely break and crumble, and just it's coming down. It's coming down. So keep that in mind. But once again, find out what house Saturn will fall in. Because that's going to let you know what aspects of your life is going to be affected by this transformation, this change, this educational progression. And just, brace yourself. Don't fight it. Accept it. Let the change occur. There's no good ending when you try to talk back to your teachers or try to, rebel against someone who's actually trying to help you, even if they're doing things that you don't want or approve of, because you are already attached to these things. Break addictions, change your dietary, change the way that you perceive yourself or you perceive others. Maybe be less afraid of things in your life. There's so many different ways that Saturn can affect an individual depending of where it's transiting, and so just want you to be aware of this message. So I know we ran on a little longer than I wanted to, and mine's probably kind of glaring at me because her stream's about to start in a couple minutes. But I want to go ahead and get this recorded for y'all. I will be throwing it later tonight. Hopefully you guys found this educational, useful, enlightening, eye-opening, and if you did, just spread it around, give us a retweet. Definitely appreciate and love your guys' support. You guys have been awesome. Again, if you have any questions of how it may affect your sign, you can always check us out at our Discords. Go ahead and join us. The links are always in the description below. Or if you already know what house it's gonna be in, but you don't know how that may affect you, go ahead and post it in the comments below, and I'll go ahead and try to reply to you guys as soon as I can. Go ahead and follow our social medias if you're not. Definitely posting a lot of these videos when they come up on 12 o'clock every day EST on Twitter. And I try to engage with either some astrological memes, because that's always fun, or just throwing out them dank hot bar knowledge for the publics and all that. So yeah, definitely stay informed, stay ahead of the game, know what's coming, and don't freak out, don't panic. Take a deep breath, know that things are going to be fine. You just want to make sure that you know what's coming and you can address it so that you hit the ground running. Thank you all for listening. Thank you all for being here. Very much appreciated. You guys stay safe, stay positive, and as always, I will catch you guys on the next one. Peace.